Welcome, everybody. Thanks again for joining us for another Fit Nation Lunch and Learn. Want to say thank you to Rike Aprea for joining us today. Rike, thank you so much for taking the opportunity to be here today. We're really excited to be able to jump into this interview today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. Yeah, so before we jump into it, want to just say thank you to our sponsor, Virtua Gym. Look out for a special promotion of the new product, Pro Plus. And remember, if you ever miss an episode or want to listen back, search on how to grow your fitness business on all good podcasting platforms, and you'll be able to find us there. So, Rike, maybe before we jump in, you can start off with a little bit of your background. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Yeah, so actually I prepared a slide for that. No. I'm German, as you hear with my accent. I studied Japanese and international management. I wanted to study sports medicine, but my parents said, yeah, you can't really make money as a trainer. So I said, okay, let's do something that you can make money. And I decided to study business. But at the same time, I did my certification, became a trainer, because I really wanted to do that at one point in my life. And then I worked for a bunch of international companies around the globe. I worked for Adidas, for BMW, for Reebok, for Siemens in Japan, Korea, US. Now I'm in the US, Germany, obviously, and Dubai. I was a little bit for a project. So I lived around the globe and loved it. And then 2019, I decided to go a little bit more full force into my training business that I started, like the real business I started 2016. But I had a full-time job at the same time. And then 2019, I'm like, okay, let's cancel that job and let's focus on the training because that's what I was passionate about. And it was like the worst point of timing because COVID hit like literally 4 months after. So great timing. But yeah, so I'll talk about that a little bit later. But it's what I love to do. So it's, you can't help it. So, and then on top of that, I consult health and fitness companies, mostly about branding, engagement, content, sometimes even product development. So, because I also have a nutrition background. So sometimes I help companies to find products that can add to their product lines. So yeah, that's what I do. And that's about me.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. Definitely shares a bit more about your background. I really like the non-traditional way of getting into the industry, always having the passion for it. I think one of the interesting things that you brought up is as well, which maybe you see changing within the industry over time, is your parents telling you, this isn't something that you can actually go into and make money. I've heard that from other people who we brought into the podcast before. And I'm always curious, is that different from, do you think that that's different now as the industry's been growing and changing, or do you see that as still one of the challenges of the industry?
I think it also depends country by country. I feel that sometimes in some circumstances, when I tell people they walk into a room and they ask me, what are you doing? And I say personal trainer, and they're like, okay, they, probably think I'm stupid, or, that happens. But then you also have, in Germany, I had I worked with trainers and they were like highly regarded. They went to a sports college in a very famous college in Germany where it's really hard to get into. And so people study to do this. So I think it depends on like the circumstance. It depends on the time. It depends on the generation. But yeah, it's unfortunately still people think that you're a meathead because you're a personal trainer, and that's a little sad. And I hope it's changing because I think I've done so many jobs, but this is one of the most challenging jobs I've ever had because you have to really work with your client. You have to understand them. It's every session could be your last session because if you don't perform, they'll never book you again. Mm-hmm. In a corporate job is, okay, you have a bad day, whatever, right? So I think it's a very, very hard job. You have to be on point every time. You have to work with different kind of people. You have to be very motivated. You have to be motivational. So it's a very hard job. And I think it takes a lot to do this. And I think I have a lot of respect for every great trainer out there because we're changing lives. And that's something we should be proud of.
Absolutely. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And, one person who was on before actually said that one of his goals is to be able to make it so that this way the trainers who join his organization can pass the parent test within his community, which is if his trainers can be proud of saying that to their to the parents, and that people can look at the role differently. He feels like he's been super successful within his local community, but obviously it's something that should be changing overall. We have
Yeah.
yeah.
I actually, just to one more anecdote I just came to mind. I was in Russia for Reebok, and I interviewed a trainer, and he said his parents forced him to study law and became a lawyer, and he was so unhappy. And then he quit his job, became a trainer, and now he's super happy and is one of the most successful trainers in Russia. So I think it happens over and over again. So
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and we have quite an awesome agenda. Like we were saying,
yeah.
it's because of your amazing background, where you have the experience within retail with some major brands, and so we're going to be talking a bit about challenges for businesses during COVID, customer experience, what you learned within your other roles, and how you've applied it into fitness, and additionally a bit more as well. So maybe to kind of kick it off.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, let's look. So what I want to start with is I found some interesting numbers about the impact of COVID. And so URSA is like one of the biggest research institution for fitness in the US. They in late 2020, they estimated 25% of all clubs in the US will go out of business. And I don't have the exact number yet, but it's very close to that. And in Europe, it might be even worse, because in Europe, the lockdown was much more strict than here. And a lot of these companies that are still in business are currently run on like government money or funding, or they're like just running on their own savings. And they expect a huge wave of bankruptcies in the next month. So it's this kind of a scary time. So that's one of the bad news. And then when you look at the personal training business, a lot of so that this is actually a great resource, the personal training development center. They have a lot of resources you can look up, and they had a survey about income, or it was a survey about personal training income, and 58% of the personal trainers said like last year they lost either whole income or some of it. And then 23% of the trainers got like laid off or furloughed, and 6% of trainers haven't even found a new job yet. So it's also like not a good number right now. And then the other thing that I found is like when you look on Google Trends in last April, the sales force, this was a search item that people would put into Google, and treadmill for sale was like super high in April. So everybody wanted to buy some home equipment. And then is this a threat for the gyms or not? That's something, And then the other thing that comes out like in April, everybody was looking for the term home workout. And the question is that the big threat, And I think it depends, because the other term, which was highly searched, was free online workout. And I think that's what our industry is suffering a lot, because people a lot of times associate like fitness information with free information. And I have another statistic that's where you can see the sources that people use for their free workouts. And YouTube is number one, and then Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and all these kind of things. So they're all free. And I think that's a huge threat, because we are an industry that have spoiled the consumers. They think they can get online workouts for free, because all of these influencers, all these so-called fitness educators, and so on and so forth. So that's definitely a threat. And I think, and that's what I'll cover that later, that's why our content that we can sell has to be like cutting edge and very different and very tailor-made to our target group. So keep in mind, there's a huge industry out there that's spoiled by all this free stuff that's out there. But then to look on the bright side, 21% of trainers said they made more money during the pandemic, or at least the same. And that's a good number. And then especially the trainers that train online make significantly more money. So it's also something that is, again, pointing to the fact that our industry was kind of behind the whole digitalization aspect, and now it's kind of forced into it. And the people that were prepared are even better prepared now. And yeah, now I want to talk about the real fun stuff. It's how you can thrive in any crisis. And this applies for fitness, and it also applies specifically for small fitnesses or small businesses, sorry. But you can apply it for, I think, everything. And it's because it's pretty, yeah, you'll see. So coming back to my Japanese background. So I lived 3 years in Japan, and that's one of my favorite countries. And their word for crisis is kiki. And kiki is consisting of two Japanese characters. One is ki and the other one's ki. They're just different characters. And one ki stands for danger, and the other one stands for opportunity. So you can translate this word as crisis, but you can also translate it as defining moment. So that's kind of my, I love this because it's like that. Everybody knows this. Like if there's a problem, you can thrive or you can, die, but mostly it's a chance to thrive. So this is a real life example. So when COVID hit, I was like everybody freaking out. Will I be bankrupt in like 6 months? And I was really like, I was panicking. But then it turned out that from April to December in 2020, I made more money, 38%, and I sold to the same customers. So I sold more to the same customers. And that was like eye-opening for me. And that's why I kind of want to share these kind of secrets, how I did this. And this is not just me. So customer loyalty, sorry, my English sometimes is a little rusty, is something that is like, it's a huge topic. And for example, Bain and Company and Harvard Business School, they made a study, and they saw that if you just increase your retention by 5%, you can increase your profits by 25 to 95%. So that's a nice number. And then other research found that existing customers are 50% more likely to buy new products or spend more on what you sell. And I have another example for this. I worked for Adidas in South Korea, and I built their e-com business. And we also started a loyalty program because in Korea we had lots of competition where people were selling discounted stuff online, and we had to sell it full price. So we started this loyalty program called Adi Club, and then we found out that people that were in that club, they purchased I think $100 per order, versus the people that were not in that club, they purchased around $60 per order. So that was a very interesting number. And I think if you can see that, or you think about yourself, if you have a loyalty card on something, you are very inclined to use it instead of going somewhere else. And then BMW, when I worked at BMW, we did a study on, is it more, do we get more out of a dollar that we invest into anything that's to do with loyalty, or in anything that has to do with, we call it conquest, into getting a new customer? And we found out that it's just so much more efficient to put your dollar into your existing customers than spending them and trying to get new people. And I try to make it visual. So you can either invest your money and your time into create Facebook ads, and have to learn how to do that. And so when COVID started, I tried to learn how to do Facebook ads. And honestly, I spent a lot of money and time, and I think I got a single customer, and that customer wasn't even a good fit. So we were only together for so long. And instead, you could just pick up the phone, try to call your existing customers, and then see either if they want to come in, or you can sell them something different, or if they want to refer you. And it's just so much easier to grow your business with your existing customers. And the reason why is, and I think that's why this is not just to make more money with existing customers, but also to develop your brand, is because if you have a customer that's happy, it's not only a returning customer, it's somebody that will become a referring customer, because they love you. They will be not only loyal, they will be almost like brand ambassadors for you. And I put the Starbucks card in there because the more visual you are, the better. So if you can create something that people can carry around, for example, like an app or like a card, and they have it on them all the time, is something they can share with their friends, or show with show other people. So the more you can make this a real thing, the better and the more successful it gets. And so there are two ways of increasing business with existing customers, and they're very similar. It's upselling and cross-selling. So as I said, they're pretty similar, but a little different. So upselling means that you just sell existing customers something that's more expensive. So in BMW, that would be, for example, if somebody drives a 3 Series, we would try to upsell them to a 5 Series. In the fitness, this could be, somebody is a normal member and you sell them a VIP membership, or you sell them a package. And package is something, I think, especially right now, something that could help a lot to sustain your cash flow, because it's something usually people pay in advance. So like, let's say like a bridal package or a marathon package or whatever. So people pay you something in advance and they get 6 months of training and a nutrition plan and whatnot. And cross-selling is more like something, so you have your client and you sell them different things. You sell them not only personal training, you sell exercise videos, you sell meal plans, maybe behavior coaching, selected special training programs, or physical products like formulas or whatnot. So, and how you do this is two ways. I think one is, and that's like in the e-com world, it's pretty mathematical. It's like you want to increase your points of contact, and then you increase your conversion. So a lot of times, if you send out emails, you at least have a conversion rate of 1%. So the more frequent you send them out, and the bigger your database, the more conversion you have. So if you can have contact with your customers as much as possible, it's you can sell more. The only thing that you have to think about is you can't just contact them without any value. So there has to be something valuable they want to share, they want to look up, and then you really win them. So don't just sell them, hey, come back to the gym, come back to the gym. It has to be something meaningful, and that will also increase the depth of engagement. So if you can share something with your customers that's really valuable, they will not only love you, but they will reshare it. And then best case, they will share it with their friends, and they will end up coming and see you. And then the other thing is your content has to be really engaging, like, something people can really use, like exercise videos, meal plans, something that really helps them and helps their outcomes. And then again, outcomes will drive referrals, and that's like a full spiral of success. And I think the goal of you should be that you become their one-stop shopping experience for fitness and wellness. Because the last thing you want to happen is that they go to you for a training, but then they go somewhere else for nutrition, and then they buy a Peloton for home exercise, and then they, go somewhere for massage, whatever it is, right? The more you can become, so when they think about fitness or wellness, you should be the first thing that comes to their mind. And then you're like, this is like a winning cycle then. So yeah, so that's really like, it's and there are like research studies that people only have so many fitness apps on their phone, and when they have one, they use it. So you want to be one of them. So if you have an app, so you want to be, the number one fitness, wellness, whatever. Whenever they think about it, it should be you, not somebody else.
Yeah. To jump in there real quick, I have a quick question for you. So is it safe to say, if you want to be the one-stop shop, that you've been looking at kind of a more holistic solution, maybe including like mental health in addition?
I mean, yes, because fitness and wellness and health, everything's so confusing and there's an information overload. If you can help people to steer through that jungle of Instagram and whatnot, they will love you, because it's you help them you give them like a compass to go through this jungle. And even if you don't have everything yourself, if you have to refer out because you're not like, whatever, somebody has like a more serious health issue, you can't serve that, but you can refer out, they would still come to you and ask for that. So a lot of clients come to me and then they ask, do you know a good massage therapist or a good chiropractor or a good physical therapist or whatever? So I think, yeah, you should be the one that has all the answers, 100%. And the more you can do this, the more you're an authority. You're not just a gym, you are part of their life. And especially in times like this, that's when you become extremely valuable. And yeah. So
this is,
let me see. Yeah, sorry.
yeah, I was going to say this
Go
is
ahead.
such a great overview and approach that you take, and it's obvious that it comes from the holistic background that you have from your past experience as well, because it's not all personal trainers and gym and studio owners who think and approach their business in this way. Can you maybe kind of explain some of the common mistakes that you see others, who don't have an eye for customer experience and or customer journey being made by them within their brands, and how they can potentially address some of these things?
Yes. And that's something is almost coming up. It's in German, we have a saying, it's everybody's darling is everybody's dep. And that means everybody's who wants to please everybody is like an idiot, because you can't please everybody. You have to figure out exactly the solution that you want to sell. So you not only want to sell training, you want to sell a solution to a specific person. And the more you know this target group, the more authentic your products become, your services become. And it's just, again, it's like something that people often underestimate how important that is. For example, let's say you have and it ideally also aligns with your passion, right? Because if you're passionate about something, you're way more likely to be successful. So let's say you're passionate about running. So you open a studio that's focusing on preparing people for a marathon. So you have a very clear product offering. You train people for marathons, and that means nobody else does that in your area. Probably you're the only one giving that very specific. And it just in case you do something online, this is much better for Google, something very specific. It's your account much easier. So if you're very specific, so you love running, so you create a studio that mostly works people and helps them to get ready for a marathon, then automatically you will probably attract employees that love running. So they will then help you to have a very authentic brand, and then they will help you to have great service, and they might even give you input about what you can do better, and they will be way more motivated to work for you than for any gym, because they do something that they love, and they work with people that do the same thing and that they love the same thing. So it's just so powerful. And ideally then everything about your brand speaks that language. So for example, if it's running, like there should be something like running, something on your website, something that implies, this is a running, people are like love running kind of. So it should be everywhere, from when you have if you have an app, should be somewhere in your app. It should be in your gym, it should be in your cars or whatever you have, your website, obviously. So the more you know your target group, the better you can create this whole package, this whole experience. And then you become unique, and you're not become a commodity. You're not just the gym next door. You are the specialist for getting people ready for a marathon. And that's when people talk about you. They don't talk about, okay, there was this gym and there was this average trainer. They go to their friends and tell them, okay, that's this place, and they prepared me for the marathon, and it was amazing. And if you ever want to do this, this is the place you go. So, and especially now when we think about the current situation where our competition is not local anymore, because we're competing against everybody that's online. If you're just the average gym, it's very hard to sell your sessions, and especially to monetize your sessions. So you want to be super specific. And so if somebody, first of all, somebody looks for something that's marathon preparation training, you will come up somehow. And then, you stick out. You stick out because you have something unique. So the more the more you are aware of your target group, the better your business will be. And I've seen that in every company I worked for, and it's very, very powerful. In BMW, we even went, like as an employee, we went through trainings about these are your personas that would most likely buy certain cars, and then you could like create these like marketing materials, or you could create these loyalty tools or whatnot. So it's so important to know who you wanna serve.
Yeah, can Can you elaborate on that a bit for those who don't know what the client persona or the ideal persona is?
Yeah, so this is, as I said, the more you know, the better. So almost like you want to picture your perfect client. So you want to say, okay, my client is between 35 to 50, and this is like this weekend warrior runner. They are corporate employees, but they love, activity, physical activity, and they're like super hardcore into this almost competitive running, but they're not real competitors, but they want to be. And they earn this much money, and they live in this kind of environment, and they are married or whatnot. So almost like think about the ideal person you want to sell your services to, and then you know where to find them, and you know who to approach. It's almost like instead of looking everywhere, you're like, oh, this is what I have to look for. It's like if you want to buy a special car, all of a sudden you only see that special car out on the roads. And the same thing, if you know exactly, oh, this is my client that I want to serve, you will only see that client. You will see them on Facebook, you'll see them somewhere, and then you can really find them and get them. It's an interesting exercise. So you can, for example, sit together with your team and then say, okay, let's paint this is our client. Like, this is the person that we want to have as our ideal client, and let's just go get creative and be honest about that. So, for example, when I did that, I was like, my client has to be in this certain income group, because otherwise it's going to be tough to sell my services to them. And I think I have, so the other thing is, so when I decided to go really for that like 30 to 50-year-old woman that's like going through these, physical changes, then I decided to adjust my skill set. So I studied something, I did a course on female health. I got the corrective exercise specialist from NASM and the behavior change specialist. I did a nutritional counseling. So I got all of these skills to serve my target group better. And that's when you know your target group, so you can like select your team and with the right skills, or you can develop the right skills. You can send them to certain courses or stuff like that. So it's like, it's all of a sudden everything makes sense. Once you know your brand and your target customer, everything will be easier. I think I have another picture here. So this is specifically my clientele during the coronavirus. So I thought, like, a lot of people had more stress, increased cortisol levels. There were a lot of people like hormonal changes is like in that target group, or people gained a lot of weight in that quarantine. I have some people that have previous conditions, so they have very limited social contacts. So I was kind of their highlight of the week, if you will. And they also had a lot of times challenges to stick to new habits. And then to kind of, serve that, I kind of tweaked everything that I had towards those, requirements. So I started offering more behavior change coaching. I started, nutritional coaching. I sent out exercise videos. And I increased my weekly sessions, especially for the people that had like, social, the need for social contact. Because as a good trainer, you're not just like somebody that's like, you're not an exercise video. You are a person, and you can really, it's more than just training. It's almost like, you're that coach. So this is what I did. And I think you can, this is just an example. So you can do this with whatever you think about. So if your target group is this runner, then you could think about, okay, what is a runner really needed when they prepare for a big run? They definitely need like massage. They might need some corrective exercises. They might need foam rolling. So you can even sell foam rollers. They might need a good like app that can track their stuff with. They might need some, coaching when it comes to preventing injuries. So you can create like a lot of like product offerings just by knowing what your client would need. So you can, let's start a marathon, injury prevention seminar, or you create a course that you can sell online if your gym is not open right now. So you could really like get into your client and then try to understand what exactly do they want from you.
Super interesting.
And this is going into the same direction. It's like always like, okay, our biggest Yeah, no, our biggest competition right now is not like the gym next door. It's Peloton, it's YouTube, it's an Instagram influencer. So we always have to ask ourselves, why do they still see me and pay a lot of money versus, buying a fitness app or, buying a Peloton or whatnot. And that's something that I think it's important too. So once you have your target group and your brand promise and your client, you have to decide on what your clients would pay for. And I found they pay for me and for my skills. They don't pay if I do beautiful administrative Excel charts, or they don't pay if I have a beautiful bookkeeping skill, blah, blah, blah. So they really pay for my time and my skills. So everything else that's like, I call them time sucker, I kind of try to outsource or, make it as simple as possible, because nobody pays me for beautiful scheduling or email newsletters sometimes, but that's a different topic. But, or, the other example is exercise videos. So in April, I thought, I need to create exercise videos myself and send them to people. And I tried it, and it just took a lot of time. I was super uncomfortable because it's just not what I like to do. And it took me forever, and the outcome wasn't, the result wasn't great. So it's something that just sucked my time. So at one point I decided I don't do that. I just use somebody else that can have great professional videos that I can send to my clients. Mm-hmm. So you have to really ask yourself, and interestingly, we had a project like that in BMW, which we called, I think it was called Core Competencies, where we pretty much went through the whole company and decided what is the client really, or the customer really willing to pay, what's really essential to the brand, and what's something that we shouldn't even be bothering with, right? And that's very interesting too. Like, think about, and a good way to find out is like, think about what you would pay for. Would you pay, you would probably pay for somebody that spends time with you and has amazing expertise on a really specific topic. I remember I once had a knee injury, and I went to this doctor in Munich, and I had to wait 2 hours to get into into his clinic. But I still was super excited about it, even if I had to wait for hours and whatnot, because this was a specific skill that I was looking for, and this guy was amazing. And it's not about the environment, it's really about you, and everything else you need to sort out, but also outsource, but make sure it's like professionally outsourced, because the worst thing that can happen is then you kind of destroy your brand with like kind of mediocre, like, exercise videos or whatnot. So make sure that's professionally outsourced, but don't do it yourself if you don't really want to do it. Yeah, and if I don't know, Kale, do you have any more questions? Otherwise, I would go into more like the best practices and then see from there.
Yeah, there was so much that you cover there, and I feel like a lot of good nuggets. Maybe kind of backtracking to the creating of the target groups. This is something that I've heard others talk about, and the interesting thing is that I'm curious how. Maybe I'll just ask the question directly, because this is how I always see it show up. You have a trainer who will talk about, yes, I'm going to create a target group, I'm going to do this, but then let's say that somebody comes to them and they say, oh yeah, I'm looking for weight loss. It's not part of the target group, but they always say to themselves, this is a client that I should be taking. I'm going to make money from this client. Should they turn people away who aren't part of their target group, or or just to stay true to who they set out as their target group, or do they take this on? And
it's a tough one, especially now. And I say always, as it depends. It's not ideal. My experience is it happens naturally. So in summer, or like April, my favorite month of last year, I took on 2 people that I knew it's not a good fit, just personally, and also this target group, whatever. But I'm like, okay, whatever, right? I want to have some money in the books. So I had these 2 new clients, and I had them for like 2 months, and at one point I didn't have the time anymore to serve them, because my other clients wanted more time with me, and it was just not a good fit. And then I referred them out at one point, because it just, and this was because I felt I wasn't helping them as good as somebody else would maybe help them, because one of them had a very specific issue that I couldn't really, I think it was more like a medical issue. And it was just not a good fit. And then usually these kind of clients phase out. And yes, you can take them, but once your brand is really strong, you will attract the right clients and you will not have time to take on all of the other ones. When I started, I took on everybody, and it was just super stressful because I spread myself so thin, wanted to make everybody happy, try to know everything. Like I knew, corrective exercise and this and that. So I was like, okay, I need to know everything. And it's very stressful. So it will take some time, but it's almost like a correlation. The more you know your target group, the less like clients you will have that are not fitting into your portfolio, if you will. It's interesting. It sounds crazy, but as soon as you know it and as soon as you put it out there, and especially now with all the virtual training, you will attract these people that want your service because they want something specific. And then I had a client in Texas, I had a client in Europe, people that I would never think I would have because of, I was local. Now you can get them. So yes, you shouldn't take them away. You shouldn't turn them away if you still need business. But once you have other clients that could come in, just try to refer them out. Try not to be like rude or something, but try to find somebody that can help them more than you.
Gotcha. And I think it will be a similar response, but I thought of something as well. Is because I've had this conversation with partners in the past. Is how do you balance the need for getting and narrowing the scope of the ideal customer as small as possible, but still not narrowing it too much where you don't basically cannibalize your market? Because you mentioned earlier the fact about email marketing or some of these other marketing techniques. You also need a bit of volume in order to generate the lead. So I know it's probably a difficult question to answer, but how would you balance that as far as, I guess, your client book revenue narrowing down on the ideal client?
It also depends on the market. So I would say like 2 years ago, while I was still totally local, I would have to keep it broader. But now with the worldwide Zoom calls, it's better you have it very narrow because people search for narrow things. So again, it depends. And it's also when you start out, definitely you have to keep it a little broader, but maybe keep it broader as like, the core, and then you maybe extend it a little bit, but the core. So that's important. But I also believe that once you know it, and because of like the kind of competition we have right now, you can't even be specific enough. I was on a course in March, like just before the pandemic hit in Washington. Was about creating video courses. So great. It was just before. It was awesome. And they were like showing an example of somebody that would, I don't know, he sold something about chicken to people that love certain chickens, but super specific chickens. And that guy was still like making millions of dollars because he was so specific. So I think try to be as specific as possible. And then maybe you need this kind of bridge time where you're a little bit more broad, but you still try to get the people that are like getting into there. But it still works, especially with internet. So
makes sense.
I know it's a little fine line. But it's interesting, especially how the industry changed now, because you can find anything. You can Google anything, and then the more specific you get, that person will pop up. So some best practices on how to create more engagement, like almost instantaneously, and they're very easy. It's not something where you need a lot of investment or anything. So one thing that I found really like immediately working is a fitness challenge. The reason why people love challenges is there's a very defined time frame. and it's make it easier to commit. So instead of saying, okay, I want to be next year, I want to 12 months, I want to be healthy, you say, okay, for the next 30 days, I'll do 30 burpees every day, which wouldn't be my target group. But so my target, I did, for example, an intermittent fasting challenge. People loved it. And it's short, but it still helps to create behavior change. Because, to change a habit, it takes anywhere from I think 20 to 100 something days. But 30 days is a good start to help you to create new habits. You will definitely get results because people feel pressured a little bit, and they have a little bit of peer pressure, so they get better results. It's usually involves tracking, which also is scientifically proven that it increases results. And it makes something, the results you can share, it's perfect for you. People share that on social media, and then, it's great advertising for you. So it's something very easy, and it's something that people love, especially now with COVID, and there's a lot of people have not that much to do, and you give them something easy, and you might not even, these kind of things you might not even need to charge for, because it's easy for you. For example, if you do something online, might not even have to charge for it, but it gives you new customers. It's something that's very engaging. It gives you results, and results will always drive referrals. So it's a winner, and it's easy. The next one is a little harder, but really powerful, and that's client education. And this comes more from a medical background. So there are a bunch of studies where they saw that when patients got educated, especially with visuals or videos, they had way better healing results than the patients that just got an explanation and good luck. In my belief, education drives engagement, and engagement always drives results. The biggest reason is education increases intrinsic motivation. I'll give you an example. When I was 5 years old, my dad had to convince me to brush my teeth. And I was like, nah, I don't want to do that. And he said, you either brush your teeth for 2 minutes every day, or you go to the dentist for 2 hours in a year. And I'm like, okay, then I'd rather brush my teeth, right? So because you know the results, you don't want that. So you don't want to have to go to the dentist. So you do brush your teeth. And it's the same with exercise. When people know exactly, maybe even visually, explanation on how their body can deteriorate, or what kind of neck issues they get, or postural issues, health issues, they're so much more likely to stick to new habits and come back or sign up for a program. It's so important, because then it's not only you telling them, it's them wanting to do whatever is good for them. So very, very powerful. And ideally do something that people can share. So something that is either you send out articles, or you handouts, or something virtual. If they share it to people that have similar issues, you will have automatically new clients. So awesome. The third one is just to increase touch points, because I talked about it earlier. The more touch points, the more likely that you make money. But again, you don't want to have this kind of it has to be meaningful. So what I found really powerful is any kind of tracking and check-ins where you discuss metrics. It's not just, hey, here's your weight, good luck. It's, okay, this is, your new metrics, we body fat, whatnot. Let's discuss what worked in the past, what can we do better in the future. It allows you to get buy-in from the client. It allows you to reconnect. It's so powerful. And it's very, very easy to reconnect with just metrics. The other thing that you can do whenever you give out exercise programs and you want to progress the exercises, so you give out a program for 2 weeks, and then after 2 weeks you give them new program with harder exercises. It's another good way of reconnect, to say, okay, now how was the exercises? How was it too easy? Was it too hard? And they say, yeah, it was good. And then you give them new ones. It's perfect. Another good check-in point. Also very powerful would be if you have any kind of wearable connection, because what happens if you have an app or a wearable, you're with your client, literally, and then you're top of mind. And they will always be reminded that you're the one helping them. Text messages or emails, again, if they're meaningful, definitely makes sense. Interestingly, text messages are more powerful because the likelihood of opening a text message is so much higher than opening an email. The only you have to be super careful. If you send out text messages that are annoying, they will just forget you as soon as you it's just, you have to be super careful. Again, if you can do something very meaningful, valuable for them, you can do whatever, but you have to be very careful on, if you annoy them, then it's not a good idea. The other thing that I found very good is leaderboards. Because especially when things happen virtually, this helps people to kind of connect even virtually. It definitely helps to increase results because people can compare each other. I did, for my last company, we did a firefighter study with the University of Southern Florida. And there were firefighters that had a personal trainer once a week, and there were firefighters that had a virtual program 3 times a week, or no, whenever they wanted to. And the virtual people, they also had a leaderboard. And we saw that they had better results than the people that saw a personal trainer, probably because there was higher accessibility, but also we found so the leaderboard, we only implemented sometime during the study, and we saw that results were just higher. And so it's definitely powerful. And especially now when you have, let's say you have virtual Zoom classes or whatnot, try to create some metrics and try to make people compare, even able to compare each other, because it's more fun, more competition, and better results. And men usually like it better than women. And last but not least, this is very powerful, is assessment. So when you do assessments, if somebody comes in, I used to do that sometimes even for free. Somebody would come in and I would do in SWOT assessment, some exercise assessments, some body metrics and whatnot. And with some really good assessment strategies, you can find out a lot of things that are going on in the client's body and where there are potential risks of injuries. And then you can document it and then discuss it with the client. And I don't know, 9.5 out of 10 people will sign up for your program if you do this well. I think sometimes when I started working, I sometimes didn't do weigh-ins at the beginning of a program, and it was very, very stupid because if you weigh in at the beginning of a program, you have a baseline for success, and if you don't, it's harder to know exactly where you're going, and it's also harder to create before and after stories. And these are so powerful. If you have a good before and after stories and you can share that, it's just so powerful. It's the best advertising you can have because it's real. And again, it increases results because it's like the whole education thing. It creates this kind of sense of urgency that, I have to do something for myself, otherwise I'll end up having a knee injury or being severely overweight or whatever. So that is, I think, that's my 5 easy peasy, and you can do this, all of them tomorrow. It's nothing where you need a lot of stuff for. My 5 best practices that I do, and I just want to, and then you can come with questions. I have 2 quotes that I would love to share. My 2 favorites. One is Winston Churchill, who said, "Success is never final, failure is never fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts." Love it. And this is my second favorite one, and this is one of my favorite authors. It's Viktor Frankl. And he said, "When we are no longer able to change the situation, we are challenged to change ourselves." So that's what I want to end with. And one more thing. So if you want to reach me, don't look for me on social media, because all you will find is dog pictures and my sunsets. But you can, that's something I like. When you don't know, or when you don't know your target group, you will try to do everything, and you will try to do Facebook and Twitter and all that stuff, and you will waste a lot of time. I found out my target group isn't on social media, or mostly not, so I don't even do it. Anyway, so you can reach me by email, absolutely. But don't look for social media. Maybe LinkedIn, that's the only one.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you so much, Rike, for this awesome presentation. We're gonna definitely share these slides as well, so that they in the follow-up email that we send out. So this way they have those resources and some of the stats that you shared as well earlier, so that they can see the trend line as well, as you were talking about some of those things going up. Maybe you can jump into some questions and as well. We had a couple come through beforehand, before we recorded, from the audience. We can go ahead and ask some of these. So the first one comes from a brand called Chaw Fitness, based out in the Netherlands, it looks like. And so question
nice.
here is, yeah, so the question here is they're opening a new gym, so congratulations on that, and moving into a bigger location, and they're worried about the risk of this, and so it's I'm
Yeah.
not sure if they've actually done it yet, but the question is moving into a bigger location, question mark, risky, question mark. So what would your advice be, if she's
Mm.
considering moving into a bigger location?
I mean, sorry, it's definitely right now it's risky, but there's also a silver lining. Sorry. So there will be a vaccine, and if there's a vaccine, people want to be back, right? They want to be back to gyms or wherever. The other positive one is when gyms reopen, we will have totally different and way stricter social distancing rules. Another like sanitizing and security rules, whatever. So a bigger space would allow you to create enough privacy for clients and for sorry for that. For the time of the pandemic, you can advertise that as social distancing. But once the pandemic is over, you can make this a premium concept where people have more privacy. Because who loves a gym where everything is crammed into each other? So if the pandemic is over, you're the luxury gym that has so much space that people almost have their own little gym. So I think it could be definitely a winner, and it's especially with the social distancing. I think it's nothing. It's a chance. It's definitely a chance. You could be the only gym that has that. So
Yep. Yeah, definitely. And another question that came through. This one is a little bit broader. It's in terms of technology overall. So they're asking for what's best practices to introduce new technology to clients. So I think that means they're a gym and they're looking to introduce some brand new member-facing technology to their members.
mm-hmm. We always said like the worst enemy to a good online subscription tool is paper, right? And older people always, for example, my parents, they used to, my dad didn't had a flip phone until last year. So one thing is through this pandemic, a lot of people got so used to technology. I think it's something that people embrace more and more, even in our industry. A lot of industries, technology is something that people already accepted, and fitness was kind of last, where it took time. So now it's much easier. People are more open to it. I always try to create a pull versus a push. So if you tell people like this is all the awesome things, you don't have to use this technology, but if you use this, you get all these awesome things. So there's more like a want. They really want to use it. So kind of sell it nicely. The other thing that I found is just, nice and easy. So create like one day you say, okay, you try this feature and then tell me how you like it. You have a new touch point also. Then next week, let's try this feature and tell me how you like it. And so you build it up slowly instead of telling them, okay, this is the app and good luck with that. So make it very like easy, make it very something that people want to do. And yeah, it's definitely now with what you just said, it's like you can create more touch points. So technology is great to create these touch points that you can use to get people more into your gym and stuff.
Definitely. Awesome. So I wanna jump back a little bit then to the presentation, because one of the things that jumped out to me, and I'm sure it jumped out to other people who are watching as well, is you made money in April, and during a time when a lot of businesses were struggling in order to be able to sustain their revenue, and much less grow their revenue and their profits. You had the ability in order to grow. And based off of what you presented, I correct me if I misunderstood and maybe elaborate on it a little bit, but I took away from the presentation that there were a couple things that you did as soon as the pandemic hit. One was you reevaluated your target customer and maybe changed the definition a little bit.
More, yeah. Took the time. Finally, I took the time to be more precise. Yes. So yeah.
Okay. So okay, great. So I did understand that piece, and then the other thing that I took away as well is that rather than looking externally and marketing for new customers, you looked at your existing customer base and thought, how can I upsell and cross sell my customers now? Is that a correct understanding of like how you approach the kind of chaos and
I
in order
mean,
to make it work for you, or how did that go?
yeah, I mean, actually, I didn't really plan it, but so I I felt like I had the time to kind of reflect on like you know, what do I want to do, and who I really serve, and how can I make the people that I have more happy. Also, not just because I wanted to have more money, because I wanted to, everybody was kind of devastated in that time. And I thought if I can help them to have a better time in this horrible pandemic, this is just something I like doing. So it was not really planned it didn't plan to make more money almost. I thought, what would they need? And I saw the need for this whole behavior change topic. And I saw the need for people needed something social. A lot of people are alone, and as I said, I was like their friend or their highlight, and obviously it helped that people didn't have any alternatives. All the gyms were closed, but now the gyms are open, and everybody that I train, none of them went back to these places that I used to go, and they just canceled everything and stayed with me, or increased sessions with me, or even then referred new customers to me. And I'm at this point where I can't even take anymore. But yeah, so the idea was more like, what do they need? And then I felt like how I can help them. And then I tried to, I kind of created these products according to their needs. So I created this behavior change course that I could do with people. And I created this nutritional program that I can do with people. And I got, just before the pandemic, I got certified. So it was good. And then I also did some time. I took some time to did some other courses that I knew my clientele would probably need to even serve them better. So it all came together and helped my business, but it was more like subconscious. And then looking back, I was like, yes, this is exactly textbook what you should be doing. And this is why I like this webinar and helping others to do that. But it was really like that wish to help people and give them everything they need, and not just being a trainer, just give them the coaching, the nutrition, help them to cope with stress, all that stuff. And I think that's why people signed up for more and more sessions, because they felt that there was something genuine. I think that came a little short in the whole presentation. I think you have to have a market, you have to have people that can pay for your services. You have to have a certain skill set so you can match that. But you also need passion, and that kind of passion is what makes everything working even more. So if you align your skills and your target group with your passion, that's like a winner, and you can't really lose. And I think a lot of my stuff that I tried to do was born my passion. And that's why I always try to teach, not teach. This is when I consult companies. I always try to do these workshops where I ask them to really think about what they're passionate about, because you can only sell what you're passionate about. And then from there we can, sometimes I had a client or like an organization that I work with, and we had a target group like this, and we changed like 360. And it was so amazing after that, how they changed their business, because all of a sudden they were approaching people that they really liked talking to, instead of approaching people that they didn't really like talking to. And that's, I think, also very important, and a secret for success, that you know your clients and you are passionate for your clients 100%. And then you develop the products they want, like, and need.
Awesome. And then maybe the last question from my end before I also turn it over to Derek as well. I know he has some questions on his side, but with everything that we've kind of spoken about, I feel like it's gotten you to here where you've been able to thrive through the through COVID, and have been able to grow. Where do you think that the industry is kind of going from here? And maybe also, are there any downstream challenges that you see facing the industry, maybe your business, that you think you need to prepare for as we continue?
I mean, I 100%. When I saw the first Peloton bike, I was like, ooh, shoot, because Peloton and Amazon Fit and Google I think just bought Fitbit, whatnot. So these big tech companies, they will have kick-ass, amazing digital solutions for fitness. So there's a high chance that a lot of people are like, okay, I don't need to pay a trainer if I can just use my Peloton or whatever else product they have. There are a bunch of these. Mirror is this thing that came out, like Mirror, and it's very well marketed. It's awesome. And I think that's definitely a threat. And we're not competing against like other real competitors. We really compete against other things, and that these other companies have so much more money than us. So that's why it's even more important to think about what can I really give, where I have skills that like a Peloton or somebody else doesn't have. So that's definitely a threat. And I think a lot of studios and a lot of gyms and clubs are threatened by all these digital offerings. So I think but then I also think it's people like to have this kind of one-stop shop solution. So if you as a club can offer like not just like here's the gym, come in, but also here's my virtual solution, here's my virtual personal training, or if you want to just have an exercise program. So you offer these hybrid kind of solutions that fits the different needs of your clients, and then have it connected to a real place. Because people are social, they still want to connect. I think that's when you can win. Because if you only go digital, then you might just compete against these big tech companies that you might not be able to compete with. But if you can have the personal touch and the good digital solution, I think that's the winner. So yeah, it's an industry that will become way more digital. So you have to be prepared on how to answer that question. That's, I think, the biggest threat.
And on that.
Then also, but you also have to, sorry that I jump in there, but you also have to think about that health is so much more important. So because we found that COVID, people that are very obese or have other conditions that are close or linked to the metabolic syndrome have more risk of dying. So we are more important than ever. A lot of people don't know how to eat. They don't know how to behavior change. They don't know how to move. So we are more important than ever. And I think that's something we have to think about. And we are very, very valuable. So we just have to find ways and resources and to products that we can sell that instead of just being there. But we are more valuable than ever, I think.
No, it obviously you're definitely a success story, especially talking about the success you've had over the past year when many others have struggled. I'm curious to know, everyone basically agrees that the digital is the future, but I'm curious to know how that ties into what you had talked about before, where there are certain tasks you prefer to outsource. You had mentioned, for instance, recording the videos. If you're talking about that digital aspect to it, is that something you personally would want to manage and make sure you were given that personalization, or is that something you'd more so like to outsource?
It's a type question, right? I hate that, so I would not want to do that. It takes me forever, and I was just like, no, thanks. So I definitely don't want to do that. But there are people that do that very well, and that's part of their business, part of the brand. So there are Instagram people that are really good on Instagram, and that's something maybe their target group really likes. Then you have to do it, especially if you have the skills to do that. I don't have the skills. I'm not somebody that likes to be on video. No, if I think the outsourcing part, I think when you have a business, there are always things that I called hygiene criteria. So something that you have to be doing, like bookkeeping and scheduling and all the other boring stuff. And you have to have it very professionally done. But instead of me doing, coding my own stuff or programming my own things, I give that to somebody else that does it for me, like my taxes. And then I focus on the things I'm really good at. And some people might be really good at creating their own videos. I'm definitely not. So I'm always happy to have something that's still reflecting my brand. So I could not send out videos that are like only like powerlifting. So I always have to like find a service that can send out videos that are like speak to my target group. But yes, I don't do that myself.
Got you. And then lastly, so we always want to leave the audience with some. Obviously, we dove deep into loyalty and engagement, etc. But just generically speaking, we always want to make sure to give our listeners as much value as possible. So this is a standard question we kind of ask in all of the webinars and podcasts. Curious to know from you if you're willing to share both one of the best books that you'd recommend, as well as some advice that you had received in the past that you think the audience can take away because it has basically assisted you in your career.
So I, right out of high school, I had a job in a nice clothing store, and I loved it. And my boss was like this grouchy old man, very successful. And I came in, and the first question he was asking was like, he said something like, "What's the customer?" And I said, "Customer's king." Because I learned that, right? Customer's king. And he said, no, customer is employer. Because if the customer doesn't buy, you don't have a job. And I was like, it's still stick with me. So it's all about the customer. It's all about, because if the customer's not happy, we don't have a job. So, and that's why do focus on that, what people want to pay for. The other one I learned from one of my bosses in Korea, which was an amazing guy. He's now the head of Adidas US, I think. He said, control the controllables, because we had like issues with the currency fluctuations and all that. And I was always panicking about all that stuff. He's like, control the controllable, do what's in your control and don't think about all the other stuff. So that's, I think, very applicable to COVID is we cannot control this pandemic. We just can't control how we manage it. Worst advice. Yeah, please everybody. I think that's definitely something. And this one fits all approach. I think it's never helpful. Yeah, anything that's just like no. So yeah, that's I would say it's not really an advice I got. More or less. I'm the kind of person who please everybody, and it's not. Nobody.
No, that's good stuff. And I'm sorry, I should have split up the questions, but also curious about the book you would recommend. I accidentally threw too many questions in that last one.
I don't know the English. There's this Musashi, and then I think the Book of the Five Rings. I'll look it up and I'll send you an email. One book I love, and I think is the best business book I've ever read, is Jim Collins' Good to Great. It's definitely a must-read. Amazing. And I love the podcast Spartan Up by Joe DeSena. Sorry. It's the head of Spartan Race. It's very aggressive, but very, very mind-provoking. So that's, but definitely Good to Great. That's definitely a book I would recommend to everybody. And then if you want to go a little bit more philosophical, go and check the Viktor Frankl, the guy that I had the quote from. He has some amazing books out there. So that's definitely something. It's no business, but it's more like life. So if you want to have something to read during this time, it's something really awesome to read.
Awesome. Thank you, Rike, so much for taking the time in order to sync up with us. Looks like we're approaching right at the top of the hour. Is there anything else that you wanted to maybe end with before we take off?
Never lose hope, and everything happens for a reason. And I wish everybody in this industry the best luck and the most amount of courage, and you will get through this. Just believe in yourself.
Awesome. Thank you so much again, Rike. Take care and enjoy the rest of your day.
Bye.
Bye. A pleasure. Take care.
Thank you.